Our story begins in South Korea with three close friends in high school. The first is Ji, the shy one, who secretly loves a girl in their class named Myung, but never dares to confess his feelings. His second friend, Dong, is passionate about drawing. He often sketches Myung and wants to talk to her too, but fear holds him back, just like Ji. The last of the trio is Cho, bold and impulsive. Instead of hesitating, he writes Myung a note, tosses it to her, and walks away. The note asks her to meet him outside the classroom. When she goes out to see him, Dong finds out and is furious. A violent fight erupts between him and Cho. They beat each other up until Ji steps in to stop them. Later, the three of them talk things through and come to a lighthearted agreement. They'll settle their romantic rivalry by playing rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins will get a chance with Myung. They play several rounds, but the game keeps ending in a draw. Eventually, they decide to try getting to know her, one at a time, in turns. As their friendship grows, the trio faces typical high school problems like low grades, but also heavier issues, like Dong's family going bankrupt. One day while they're walking, Cho jokes that they're too old for certain things. The comment deeply affects Ji, who realizes that childhood is slipping away. They're standing at the edge of adulthood and university life, and that means bigger choices and responsibilities are coming. Ji tells them seriously that they're now on the threshold of adulthood, and their next decisions must be made with care and maturity. But the truth is, none of them has any real idea what they want from life, so they gather again to reflect. Ji reminds them that the average life expectancy is 80, meaning they've already lived half of their lives. It's time to focus and think about the second half. Cho, however, laughs it off. He's not interested in plans or pressure. He just wants to chase girls and enjoy life freely. In the middle of this, Myung appears again. We learn that Cho had dated her for a while, but, as always, got bored and broke things off. Myung, still single, clearly hasn't fully moved on. The next day, Cho brings a girl over to his place, hoping to flirt with her a bit. What he doesn't know is that Ji and Dong are hiding in his closet. When they accidentally fall out in front of her, they awkwardly pretend they were praying. Of course, the girl doesn't buy it and ends up beating Cho up before storming out. Meanwhile, Ji is struggling with his own life. Now in his early 20s, he's dealing with emotional and mental challenges, especially because of his younger sister, a high school student who doesn't seem to understand what he's going through. When he starts university, he bumps into a girl on campus in that typical movie cliché moment. Books fall, they both reach down to pick them up. But he isn't impressed, so he just walks away. Later, Ji tells Dong that he wants to work on himself and improve his skills so he can eventually get a proper job. Dong, on the other hand, is going through the toughest time. He has to balance university and a part-time job to help support his mother and younger siblings, especially after his father's bankruptcy. And as for Cho, well, he's just sitting at home all day watching TV. Back to Ji. He attends a gathering for intellectuals at a bar. Later, he sits with his college mates, and they all drink excessively. Ji doesn't want to be the odd one out, so he joins in and ends up drunk. Suddenly, he sees a girl walk into the bar and is so intoxicated that he falls flat on the floor. The next day, Cho sees the same girl heading to campus. She recognizes him and offers him a ride to university. Ji is surprised and delighted that she knows who he is, even though he doesn't recognize her. When they arrive, one of Ji's friends tells him that the girl's name is Jinju. She's the top student at the university, almost like a campus queen. Ji is stunned. The university queen recognized me while I was just walking around, and I didn't even know who she was. His friend laughs and tells him, "You're famous now, Ji. Haven't you seen the video on Facebook?" Ji is confused until he checks his phone and sees it. A clip of himself, drunk at the bar, standing up in a rage and shouting, "Enough with the drinking! Is this a welcome party or a suicide mission? Meanwhile, Ji's sister Sue keeps following Dong around, annoying him constantly. While they're walking together, they meet a girl from Dong's university and sit down to eat. The girl suggests that Sue, being a high schooler, should leave them alone so they can spend time together. Dong politely declines, saying he has work early the next day. But Sue cuts in, exposing him. He's broke anyway. The girl is visibly turned off. And as for Cho, he's still living it up, drinking, partying with zero concern in the world. But that doesn't last long. The next day, his father and mother sit him down for a serious talk. His father asks him, "What did we ever do wrong for you to live this kind of failure?" That's when we learn his dad owns a restaurant and offers Cho a job, even suggesting he trains so he can take over one day. But Cho scoffs. "Me? In a kitchen? Really?" The father, clearly frustrated, decides to cut off Cho's allowance so he can grow up a little. Later, Cho meets with Myung and bluntly tells her they need to break up. His dad cut him off and now he needs to find a rich girl who can financially support him. Myung tries to convince him that her love for him is real and not just casual, but deep down, she knows Cho was never meant for a serious relationship. Meanwhile, Ji meets Jinju again and gathers the courage to speak to her. He says he wants to join the investment club she's part of. She sits with him, explains that the club is actually boring, and quickly realizes that Ji's interest isn't in finance. He just wants to be around her. Still, she decides to give him a chance, and they go for a walk until late in the evening. Eventually, they end up at a restaurant. While they're there, a group of loud guys at a nearby table are being disruptive. Jinju leans in and tells Ji, "You know what I like about you? You're rebellious. You stood up against conformity at the intellectuals party. That impressed me. Now, can you tell those guys to quiet down?" Ji panics. "But I was drunk when I did that. I can't do that now." Without hesitation, Jinju yells at the group to lower their voices. Everyone in the restaurant freezes. The guys look around to see who shouted, but everyone suddenly pretends to be statues. Embarrassed, they apologize and go back to their meal. At that moment, Ji falls in love with Jinju's boldness. Cho, having reluctantly accepted the reality, starts working at his father's restaurant. But come nighttime, he takes his pay and blows it all at the nightclub he always goes to. Later, he tries calling Ji multiple times, but Ji is too busy driving. He's taking Jinju home after she passed out from drinking too much. The next day, the three friends reunite again. Ji drives them calmly, still new to driving, but Cho quickly gets annoyed and insists on taking the wheel so they can speed things up. As they drive, they reflect on how many problems have hit them since entering their 20s. Ji then opens up about Jinju, admitting he feels something genuine for her. Cho, as usual, mocks him, saying she'll dump him and find someone else soon. While on the road, Cho spots a girl walking by and, being completely irrational, literally hits her with the car to get her attention. The three panic and rush her to the hospital. Turns out, the girl is an aspiring actress named Hyo. When Cho visits her at the hospital to apologize, she asks him to drive her to a filming set because she has a shoot. At the filming location, the director asks who her manager is. Thinking on her feet, she points to Cho and says, "He's my manager." The director looks him up and down, says he's a handsome guy, and shrugs it off. Later, Hyo asks Cho for a big sum of money as compensation for the accident. He tells her he's unemployed and spends his nights out drinking and doing nothing useful. She then proposes a deal. He can pretend to be her manager during this period as compensation. All he has to do is come with her to various sets and enjoy free meals. Of course, Cho loves the idea. No effort required? He's in. Cho spends most of his time with Hyo, completely fascinated by the director and everything about the film industry. But eventually, Hyo gets fed up with him. "You really don't do anything, do you?" she says. "Just leave and don't come to the shoot again." But Cho refuses. "No, I found myself in cinema and film. "I'm not going anywhere." Meanwhile, Dong is still dealing with Sue, Ji's sister, who follows him around endlessly. Her high school is near his university, so they end up spending a lot of time together, even heading home together. When Dong visits his brother, he learns their mother had withdrawn money from his bank account because the younger twins needed things, and she didn't have enough money. His brother tells him, "You need to forget about drawing and cartooning. You're not going to make a living off that." Dong replies, "But if I give up now, I may never get another chance. I'm scared." The next day, Cho sits down with the film director to learn more about the job, but the director turns out to be shallow and infuriating. He explains that filmmaking is just a matter of filming random scenes, then stitching them together. If a scene doesn't work, he yells at the actors until it does. While sitting with him, Cho notices a message on Hyo's phone. She has a private appointment scheduled. Suspicious. Meanwhile, Ji starts spending more time with Jinju to get to know her better. He notices they actually have a lot in common, but his shy personality and teenage imagination blur the line between fantasy and reality. He imagines confessing his feelings to her, only to snap out of it and awkwardly apologize. The tension between them is obvious. Dong goes home to visit his mom and siblings. Despite the difficult financial situation, there's warmth and closeness in their family. The next day, when it's time for Hyo's appointment, she's surprised to find Cho waiting in front of the building. He says, "If there's nothing serious going on, then I'm coming in too, with rich women and all." She brushes him off and goes in alone. But when she comes out a while later, she finds Cho still waiting. He quietly follows her, not saying a word. That night at the bar, Cho stares at Hyo with a strange expression, so much so that his friend asks him, "Man, I've never seen you look at a girl like that. You in love or something?" Cho denies it. "Nah, I'm just messing with her, that's all." Later we see the three friends walking down the street. Cho tells them he started a relationship with Hyo and wants to spend more time with her. Time passes, and eventually, it's Dong's birthday. Everyone comes together to celebrate. They're all cheerful, and in the end, they smash the cake into his face. A birthday tradition, of course. Later on, Cho is with Hyo, helping her rehearse a new scene. Suddenly, her phone rings. Cho picks it up and realizes it's the same producer who had previously invited her to that mysterious meeting. Furious, Cho scolds the man on the phone, telling him not to call again. Hyo gets angry and snaps back. "You had no right to answer that call. And by the way, you already have a girlfriend. Her name's Myung." At the same time, Dong is rushing to the hospital. His mother has fallen seriously ill and is being admitted. To his shock, he finds his father there, the same man who abandoned the family after going bankrupt. He explains that Dong's mother collapsed because she's never worked a day in her life and her body simply couldn't take the strain. The father wants Dong to start working at the factory with him and eventually take it over, but that's the last thing Dong wants. His dream has always been art. Still, with the family's situation worsening, he doesn't have much of a choice. Meanwhile, Ji remains silently in love with Jinju, still afraid to tell her how he feels. One day during class, Jinju's mother suddenly bursts into the room and violently slaps her in front of everyone. It's clear their situation at home is extremely hard. The students all take out their phones and start recording, but the teacher steps in and escorts Jinju out gently. Ji can't stand it. He shuts the classroom door and demands that everyone delete the videos. He takes a stand for her, quietly but firmly. The next day, Dong visits his mother in the hospital and brings food. He also gives some to his younger siblings, the twins, but he doesn't feel appreciated. Elsewhere, Myung calls Cho and invites him out for breakfast like they used to, but this time, Cho tells her to come up to his apartment instead. When she arrives, he tells her he wants to end the relationship, this time for real. Devastated, Myung goes to Ji and breaks down crying. She tells him she never imagined she and Cho would end so suddenly. Meanwhile, we learn that Jinju and her mother have left town. To lift their spirits, they decide to go out to a bar for the night. But things quickly spiral out of control. A silly fight breaks out among them, and they end up punching each other like little kids. We then get a brilliantly symbolic scene. The three of them lying in the middle of the street at a crossroads, completely lost, not knowing which direction to take in life. Afterward, Cho sits down with the director Yo had been working with and pitches a weird and wild movie idea. The director is amused at first, but then tells him, "Kid, that movie would need a national budget." He laughs and walks off, leaving Cho sitting there alone. Dong is walking home with Sue, Ji's sister, when something unexpected happens. She confesses that she's been in love with him for a long time, but never had the courage to say it. Meanwhile, Ji and Myung, both feeling a little lost, begin spending time together. As they talk, they discover they actually have a lot in common. Things they'd never noticed before, mostly because Myung was always with Cho, and she and Ji never really talked much. But during this conversation, Ji accidentally blurts out that Myung was actually his first love. They both freeze, unsure where this will take them. Elsewhere, Cho is with Yo and completely loses his temper when he finds out that she's met a rich man who offered her work as a model, and possibly more, for money. Cho is furious. He tells her they're done, but also confesses that he truly loved her. He walks away in silence and goes back to sitting in front of the television like before. Suddenly, he gets a message from Myung asking him to meet her at a certain spot. When he arrives, he sees her walking hand in hand with Ji. Before he can say anything, he realizes what's going on. They're officially together. Cho is shocked. Dong shows up too and starts joking around, but Ji calmly diffuses the situation and announces, "We're dating now." Cho is clearly hurt and walks away in silence. Dong is back home with his family when he finds a note from Sue, wishing him luck on his test that day. It touches him deeply. For the first time, he realizes how much he appreciates her. He goes to his mother and confesses everything, including that he plans to start working for his uncle's company. Not because of family pressure, but because he genuinely wants to become more responsible, especially now that he's found someone he cares about. He even goes to the barber and says, "Give me a haircut that screams government employee." When he returns home and Sue sees his new look, she starts yelling at him for missing his entrance exam and basically dropping out of college. A full-blown argument ensues. Later, the friends all gather again. Cho shows up and hears about Dong quitting school, and he lashes out at him. But Dong fights back, saying, "You have no idea how much pain I'm feeling right now. I gave up art school and the dream of becoming an illustrator, but sometimes in life you have to give something up to gain something else." It's one of the most powerful lines in the entire movie. Cho, still bitter, starts mocking Ji and Myung again, joking about marriage and making ridiculous comments. Suddenly, a group of angry men enter the restaurant and begin tearing it apart. The owner comes out and asks them to leave before he calls the police. One thug insults him and demands he hand over his wife. At that point, the owner takes off his work clothes, and we find out he's not just a simple restaurant owner. He has a black belt in Taekwondo, a master's in self-defense, and is a former Marine. Basically, a real-life Jackie Chan. The thugs just stare, confused by how ridiculous the whole thing is. Even the Jackie Chan owner pretends he's getting beaten up, clearly faking it all. It's a chaotic, absurd scene, but it perfectly captures what life in your 20s feels like. Total, beautiful, frustrating chaos. After all that chaos, life starts moving forward. Dong begins working at a company and, full of passion, tries to pitch fresh ideas. But he quickly realizes he knows nothing about the job market or how things work in the real world. Ji, meanwhile, spends more time alone on his computer, enjoying simple things and trying to make new friends online. As for Cho, he finally goes to his parents and tells them he's made a decision. He wants to become a filmmaker. Then comes the moment of truth. The three friends receive their military enlistment notices. They're weirdly excited about it, seeing it as some kind of noble path forward. They even march toward the training base like it's a grand adventure. But after walking for a while, they realize just how far it actually is, and that they clearly didn't plan for this. Still, they're enthusiastic. After all, this is their 20s, the time of strength, rebellion, and idealism. In that spirit, Dong finally musters the courage to tell the others he loves Sue. But Ji is stunned and immediately picks up a rock, chasing after him with Cho right behind. And in the end, there's a message. Your 20s are one of the most important stages of your life. Use every moment wisely. Don't waste your years chasing empty things. And with that, the film comes to an end. If you made it to the end, don't forget to like the video. Leave us a nice comment as always. And if this is your first time watching, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming recaps. Peace.